Give us your perspective on Operation Phoenix and Measure Z. Do you think that the money was used effectively?
Well, as you know, the Phoenix operation has been drastically curtailed. When it was originally started, it had a much stronger presence in San Bernardino. And in fact, our program was looked at nationally as a program that had some success, and it did have success. It was able to actually help to reduce some of the crime. And it took that part of the crime element, the prevention side of it, and it directly addressed those issues and those needs, trying to prevent the cycle and break the cycle for those that were near that potential of moving into crime. And it was fairly successful. I mean, if you look at the statistics, you can see that the drop in crime was affected as a result of Phoenix. We've also seen it start to creep back up now as a result of many of those programs being taken away. And so that's a part of the element of attacking some of the crime in San Bernardino that is necessary in order to break the cycle and to be the prevention side of it. But where we're also failing is on the suppression side of it. We're not dealing effectively with that side of it. And we need to effectively deal with both ends of it. It's not that we don't deal with suppression, we certainly do, but you know, with the long response times, it's more difficult for them to be able to be effective. Many of the things in the city are neglected, and part of it is also the response that the police have when they're responding to calls. Sometimes it's 3 hours, 4 hours. There are some crimes that don't even go reported because there isn't enough time for them to get out there. So both spectrums of the crime problem need to be addressed, but you can see that both spectrums have been neglected. And part of that is because of the bankruptcy that has put us in the position to not be able to fund the crime-fighting arsenal that we have effectively. And so Operation Phoenix was successful when it was fully implemented.
A quarter of a cent was a pretty good amount of money generated from Measure Z. And one of the things that I saw that I thought was awesome was the skate park that was built with that money. And I didn't really know about what was going on at the time, but everybody knew that there was a new skate park being built here in San Bernardino, and people from other cities came to it. We would get mad when they would close the gate because we wanted to use the skate park. Why didn't other skate parks come about, or what do you think about having other things like that that are really good for the kids to come out and use? Is that something that we can do in the future?
Well, I think those are some of the things that Phoenix operation was trying to address. There is still a skate park down in Spiker Park, as you know, across the street from San Gregorio and the soccer. So those are effective. And that's actually also right next to a disabled veterans park. So that is a great way to try to bring together some of those that have been disabled, and as well as the youth. So those are the kinds of activities I think that can help to bridge that gap with the youth and some of those that are disadvantaged. But as you know, with being in bankruptcy, those are some of the programs that are taken off the focus right away, because they tend to not get quite the voice. And it's unfortunate because they do have an impact. There are other programs that other communities have successfully put together that San Bernardino still can adopt, I believe, that will be able to help us move forward and be more proactive at reducing and preventing crime. But those dollars have to come back. And part of that is taking that budget and being more effective about how we allocate those resources. Those resources are not currently allocated effectively to be able to handle those other issues. As well as you see the neglect in our city, you see the streets, you see the libraries, you see the parks closing as a result of not being able to maintain them. We need to collaborate more effectively with some of the public resources that we have in order to bring them back and be able to maintain them. And when you don't have that kind of an option available to you, then you automatically have a gap where kids and youth are going to spend their time doing other things that are not necessarily productive, and it leads them into crime.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think the skate park was one of those great things that kids could do outside and not get in trouble.
And another thing is being outside. Oftentimes today you see that there's a great focus with youth spending it engaged in video games, and a lot of that is not engaging and interacting with one another. The skate park is a great way to be able to do that.
Right.
Oftentimes those are games that you're just playing with yourself, and you're engaging with a device But skate parks allows people to communicate. And when you communicate with one another, you build bonds and you build friendships, you're less likely to be engaged in some of those other problems that lead you astray.
Right.
So they need to be brought back, and they need to be part of the overall plan.
Right.